Hello everyone and welcome to PSGL here for round 9 of season 29 here in the PlayStation F9 tier. We are at the Portimao circuit in Portugal on what will hopefully be a nice sunny race weekend, although yet to see what the weather is like, so hopefully it is nice. I am your commentator Jackson, and alongside me is Storm.
Yeah, welcome back finally after a 2-week break, some might say. Yeah, but yeah, in Portugal for round 9, obviously we had China last week, which was fantastic. Obviously, you weren't here for Austria and China, but I'm sure you have watched them, and I'm sure you were quite enjoyment of what the two races did produce, and they were two fantastic races while you weren't here.
I especially enjoyed the end to the Austrian Grand Prix with that changeable conditions. It was anyone's race at some points in it, which of course always adds something to it.
Yeah, definitely, of course, and obviously that curse has now been broken, as I was just mentioning to yourself, with Pachuca winning from pole. Not yesterday, last week in China. China was a very chaotic race, I will admit that one. We had a few safety cars, but yeah, it was the McLaren of Pachuca that did take it. Also, in Austria, Paudi and the Pied Piper got their first podiums of the season, and yeah, the championship is really getting interesting now.
Yeah, the championship, I mean, there's I think 4 drivers within 11 points, which is insanely close. I speak about it a lot, especially in these qualifying sessions, how important consistency is. The average, I think, points scored I worked out, the championship leader is something like 7.8 or something like that, which is less than half a race wins. That's around, that's not even average finish of P4. It's crazily low. But that just shows how close the field is and how much craziness has happened, which is something we certainly can't complain about because it's led to some brilliant races to watch.
Yeah, I think if the quite noticeable one this season has been Austria, where, well, I don't know if you watched the whole of Austria, that you weren't here. I think it hurt Bandini a lot more because of the crash he had at turn 4. I don't think Kyron Robb or Dustley finished that race either, so it's going to be an interesting one in Portimao, because not a lot of the drivers have had a league race at this track. And I have been made aware by our fellow league racers in the league racing community, turn 3 is giving drivers a double warning and a penalty on top of that. So that is something that maybe we may have to take into a look this evening, as all the drivers except from 3 or 4 have now gone out and are either on an out lap or a flying lap. We have, as I mentioned to you last week, we have a few new drivers, a few driver swaps have been made. So we've got Lars and Tusum come in to F9, with Royal Harvey dropping to a reserve, and Time Razim sadly has left the tier as well. So it was definitely an interesting one. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, Viva Bet is a new F9 reserve as well.
Was out on the intermediate tyres for whatever reason. Without a front wing as well. That's a interesting practice for them, especially given that they were the person that told me that we do have a full dry weather forecast for today. So I suppose that means you can sort of use the corner the intermediates without a price, but it's a worrying decision there if that's the sort of strategy choice, because nearly blocking someone there already, it's causing issues. Going into this as Pachuca goes fastest, something we'll have to discuss is corner numbers here. Because even, I don't know, there's a lot of corners here, a bit like Austria, that they're there, but are they a corner? So let's find someone who's about to start a lap. Worryingly, I think the only person near starting a lap, okay, like GTX, or is that, yeah, it's GTX, I believe coming to the pits.
Paudi is on one. He's just gone through the start-finish line, so he might be the person behind him.
Yes, I believe Paudi was on a lap. Okay, so going up here, that's actually turn 4. If you look on the mini-map in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that turn 1 is the first high-speed kink. Then that second little kink there is classified as turn 2, according to a track map I have in my hand. And then turn 3 is the hairpin after that. Then going uphill left-hander is the 4. Then going to 5, which is the next hairpin, which is a good opportunity for overtaking. Then another one of those sort of slight kinks that you don't really think about too much is class of corner. That's turn 6. Then the high-speed right under is 7. Then the very, very tricky Samsung corner is turn 8. That's the one I think where we'll see the most, not necessarily incidents, but where we could see a driver spin in the race, especially early on with heavy fuel. Then, of course, the high-speed left-hander where you go steeply uphill is turn 9. Then the sort of double right-hand corner, which is, funnily enough, called Portimao, turns 10 and 11. Those two corners are two separate corners as well, despite when you look at them on the map, them barely looking like two, but they're classified as two corners. So that is 10 and 11. Then 12 is the next sort of downhill corner, another one of the many flat-out corners here that the cars don't really think about. Then 13, 14, quite clear, obviously two quite sharp corners. And then 15 being the final flat-out corner of the lap that sets the drivers up until the start-finish line, and then of course into turn 1. So that's all the corners around here. It's confusing. If you see anything that looks slightly like a corner here, if it changes direction by even a couple of degrees, it seems to be classed as a corner. Looking at the track map, so that's going to be one I have to keep reminding myself of. But for those who are watching, that's a little bit of information about the Portimao corners.
Yeah, I think also it's quite noticeable the track limits are, I wouldn't say they're as bad as Austria, but yeah, they are quite notorious, especially I think it's turn 2 and turn 3. The track limits, if they catch you, then you are going to be penalised quite heavy. It's not as bad as Austria, because we know how bad Austria is with the track limits, especially the last two corners. The pit lane entry is quite an interesting one, because you've got to kind of apply the brakes quite quickly, but I think with this track it is like a roller coaster. 1 minute you're on a high part of the track, then the next minute you're just going down a hill, so it is definitely going to cause, I think, a few problems, especially one of the DRS parts of the track as well. It looks like the opposite side of the DRS zone in Spain. I think it's turn 9 or turn 10, the one just before the S part of the track. So that could be, if you get it wrong and you do go wide, you can invalidate if you go off the track. It's also like the part of the Hungarian Grand Prix track as well. If you go off wide, you can invalidate. So it's definitely not an easy track for the drivers, but I'm sure they're going to put on a showcase for obviously the viewers that are watching this evening for F9.
I mean, as you said, when it comes to its actual track limits, it's not as bad as tracks like Austria. However, I think the big issue for drivers is, whilst it is a track that I think it is easy to abuse track limits on, I'd say it's similar to perhaps tracks like Russia, as Cohen Rob goes to the top of the times, in the sense that it's you can quite clearly see the edge of the track, but it's quite, because it's very flat, it's quite easy to step sort of past the boundary accidentally. Similar to Austria as well. But the big sort of the thing here that makes it so much worse than tracks like Russia is the fact that the track is new. These drivers, it may only be their second league race here, maybe the third if they've had a lot of practice for it. Which it's with some of the corners here and with the the changes in the height of the circuit, it really unsettles the cars. And if you're not used to that, if you haven't put in the time and practice, then it's not going to be fun in the Grand Prix, especially with a full fuel load. So expect to see a lot of penalties in this race. But as you pointed out earlier, there's some really strange sort of double track limit penalties here. I've seen lots of them. I've had one league race here, and it's dry start to wet, but it was very strange. Basically, everyone had penalties, but it took so long to actually know which penalties were legitimate, because I mean, it felt as though every time you were going off track, you were getting 2, maybe 3 warnings. It was that sort of over the top, and it was just such a strange thing, and it's one of those things that you'd think Codemasters would have sorted before they make a new track. But I guess when each of their Instagram posts is a comment saying how long did Portimao, I suppose they rushed it, and of course, given that we all desperately asked for the circuit, I don't think we can be too angry at the fact that there's a couple of issues here and there, but that's, I suppose, how it goes, especially with a full track that is, I think, looks very nice from the off-board cameras. I think it's worth a couple of issues here and there to get it for league racing, which is going to be quite entertaining to see these cars around at full speed racing. Lap one's going to be an exciting one, I think.
Yeah, I think as going on to what you're saying there, I think with Portimao is because obviously F1 at the moment with the whole pandemic situation is in an ever-changing situation. 1 minute a race is on and then the next minute it's cancelled. I think that's where it comes in. They wanted to rush it, so then, or well, I don't think they wanted to, but it comes in obviously, you know, a fan's expectations of, you know, if they're kind of given something, they expect it to be, you know, as perfect as it can be, and obviously things can't be as, you know, as we've got it here with Portimao, should I say. Obviously Imola and Jeddah still yet to come, which I think will, you know, even be more challenging with Imola. But I just wonder if the drivers are going to go all out tonight, because this could be the only one game we see Portimao on, because we don't know next year's game. You know, two cars trying to enter the pit at the same time. So, you know, to win such an elevation-changing track that is Portimao, you know, to say I won that race and that was the only race ever in PSGL, you know, it could be an absolutely cracker of a race, as we've seen in quite a lot of the other tiers, the lower tiers in F10 to F13. But yeah, and also drivers really don't know tyre strategies because it's such a new track. It's not one that's on many calendars at the moment for different leagues.
Yeah. Something else of note for today is that because a lot of this track is flat out because of these not being designed for Formula 1 cars of this generation anyway, and for the long DRS zones you have, of course, from sort of start-finish line to turn 1 and then again from turn 4 to turn 5, this means that in the race we are almost definitely going to see some, well, quite long DRS trains, because we're a field that, as we've seen so far this season, is very close on pace. With the amount of DRS zones here, and also the fact that even when they're not sort of going down a DRS straight, if you look at the middle sector, I feel like about half of the corners in the middle sector are indeed flat out, which means that the slipstream is going to help through those types of corners, as I believe we've got a car somehow stopped on the start. I've got a car spun out of the final corner. That is an unusual place to spin it, especially in the dry. But that is Daniel, who's having a tough time qualifying so far. Only driver yet to the lap. We should probably talk about the qualifying session, really. Currently top is Kyle ahead of Mentos and Twosome. Is that a new driver, or is that someone that joined whilst I wasn't here?
No, he joined last week. I believe he is a driver that has been successful in F10, and got a promotion with Lars 27 up to F9. And I tell you what, in the Chinese Grand Prix, both of them were right in the mix of that midfield for the top prize as well. And Hyped has also been up there. The last two races, he has put on a fantastic display. He got P2 in China. He was unlucky with the change in weathers in Austria, but he might just be one that's now going to kick on with this season and go, I'm going to put a marker down. Mentos, he had that great pole position in France, which we've mentioned before, but yeah, it's just his season is like the Portimao track, is up down up down up down. That's how his season has gone.
I mean, speaking of up and down seasons, Bandini is currently sitting second of the championship. It's no points in round 1, win in round 2, win in round 3, didn't start in round 4, win in round 5, DNF in round 6 and round 7, then a 4th place finish in China in the last round 8, sorry. That is, I mean, he's finished, 4 of the 8 races. He's finished 5. He's finished in the points 4 out of 8 times. And he's won 3 of those. He's been in the top 4 in all of those occasions. It seems like when Bandini has no issues, he's going to almost be guaranteed that sort of top 5 finishing position. The problem is, he doesn't regularly finish and have those clean races. Which of course means that he's sort of Whilst he's, I mean, only 2 points off the championship lead, with some of the form he's shown this season with his 3 wins, you'd think he should be well clear, but clearly not.
Yeah, I think with Bandini, which was quite interesting, which I saw in China, which I actually had the privilege of having a championship rival in the commentary box with me, which was Dustley. Yeah, I think as we saw in China last week, Bandini didn't even qualify in the top 10. He was P11. So I think with this tier, it's 1 week you get a different top 10 to what the next week would be, because it's such an open field. You know, you can't pinpoint a top 3 or even a top 10.
Yeah, that's very true. As we've got Vavabet currently circulating the circuit at a very slow speed. I'm not really sure why. I believe they're about to start their final soft lap. If the yellow flags briefly go away, we'll see how long's left in the session.
1 minute 50.
As Vavabet is taking some interesting lines here. Is that a little cheat that he's found there, where if you take a certain line into the final corner, you get a better exit? Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
He's trying things. That's all I know. And Vavabet will start his lap currently down to P16 at the moment. Anyone else notable out on the circuit? Colin Robb currently top of the timesheets with a 1:16.6. He's on his outlap at the moment, just steering clear of any high-speed traffic that's coming past him. At the moment, looking at how this qualifying session's gone so far, who do you think is going to grab that pole position?
I tell you what, he's been improving massively. Wow, as Lars comes hot in with a 1:16.6 and sets the pole position at the moment. Just as I was about to mention, Dusty retires. I believe that's on track as well, out of turn.
He looks like he stayed flat going into turn 5.
Yeah, as I was going to mention, it's quite noticeable that Powdy has really come to life in the second half of the season. He's had I know he's had 1 podium in Austria, because he took the race win. But yeah, he had a fantastic race, I believe, in China last week, and he's just put it up there again, you know, in the likes of, you know, Mentos, Bandini. So he could really be a thorn in their side if Bandini or Karen Robb wants to take this championship lead and extend their point gap.
Yeah, as you say, yeah, that's very true. My pick for pole at the moment would be probably, you know, it's a tough one actually to pick. There's so many good drivers here at the moment. Anyone that's down the order at the moment, GTX, someone that's showing some great pace this season currently.
I have to interrupt you there, as CPI Daniel was on a flying lap and Vavabet has just absolutely blocked him and caused a spin, and that will not be any lap time set for the Alpine driver of CPI Daniel. Absolutely blocked him on qualifying.
I mean, Vavabet, I don't know what he's been doing in this qualifying session. He was on inters with no wing for the first few laps, so that's an odd session for him.
That will go to the stewards, I think.
In his debut race, I believe, as currently top of the time is Tusum MM. Colin Robb is about to come across the line now, and he goes second, not able to top the time set by the Mercedes driver. A 16.3 currently is the quickest. Powdy has invalidated his lap. Bandini's into the pits. Pachuca, can he do anything here about the current top time? He's a little bit wide going through there. Not a great lap so far for Pachuca, making his way towards the final few corners of the lap now. Got a bit of traffic up ahead of him. Might feel a little bit of dirty air from Jamie, I believe it is, ahead of him. Maybe it'll give him a bit of a boost going down the straight towards the line. Let's wait and see here as Pachuca goes around the final corner. I believe if Pachuca can't do anything, then that will mean it is pole position for Tusum on his debut. Pachuca only goes P6, and that means it is pole for the Mercedes of Tusum in his debut in PSGL F9. And he'll be on pole alongside Colin Robb, and that is a stunning pole up there by Tusum, who, I mean, he's nearly 3 tenths clear of the field, and that is quite the debut.
Yeah, I have to update you. This is Tusum's second race in PSGL. I can't remember if he finished in China because it was such a chaotic race. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a safety car or a VSC this evening, because it is going to be an absolute cracker, but I believe we will have at least one or the other, because I know if you go off one side of the track, it can cause a DSQ, because I had it happen to me a few weeks ago. So that is qualifying finished with Tucson in the Mercedes taking that pole position in Portsmouth for round 9 in PSGL F9, with Karen Robb taking second, with Lars rounding off the top 3. Then we've got Paudi in 4th, Mentos P5, Pachuca in 6th, FVR Bandini in 7th, Black Yoshi in 8th, Carlsbury in 9th, Hyped Shoals running off the top 10. Then we've got Jamie in 11th. Then we've got the Pied Piper in 12th. Then we've got F1R San in 13th. GTX in 14th. Dustly in 15th. Vavabet in 16th. And then without the time in last position is 17th. As I did the last 2 weeks, I will hand you over to Jackson for the formation lap and the lights out for race start.
Yep, we're getting ready now for round 9 of the season. So Tucson in his second race, he finished 5th in his first race. Looking to get a bit higher up the order here with a pole position. What a way to back up a decent debut then. Sorry about that one. But
that's alright.
Tucson in a very strong position for this race, but that was a dominant pole position for Tucson. I mean, nearly 3 attempts clear of the championship leader. I mean, that's a statement definitely being set out to his rivals that give him a full season, maybe he'll be the one fighting for the championship. And if that's the pace he has everywhere, then maybe it wouldn't be more. It'd be a less of a fight, more of a domination. But we'll see how he does in the race, I suppose. If he can convert that qualifying pace to a similar level of race pace, then I think he's got a good chance of winning here. But if it's perhaps more of a qualifying setup he's gone for, perhaps he's just better naturally at qualifying, then maybe we could see a fight back from the likes of Bandini, Carmen Robb, and the other top guys up there. I believe Mentos qualified quite highly again. Mentos, another driver who's had some great qualifying efforts this season, but especially in France, of course, but hasn't really been able to back them up with super consistent, strong results. As the drivers are now on their grid for the formation lap, we'll have a look now at the tyres everyone is going to start the race on. It is, in theory, a easy one-stop here from softs to mediums. Doesn't mean we won't see a safety car mix things up and perhaps split the strategies. But the top 10 all starting on the soft compound tyres there, as you can see. First car on the medium tyres is Jamie in P11. The Pied Piper also on the medium tyres in 12th, with F1R Sanfueda, or I've never really know how to pronounce that, sorry about that one. Also on the mediums, with GTX in 14th. Dustly, the only person outside the top 10 to start on the soft. I don't blame him there. I like this strategy idea. He's seen that whichever tyre you start on, you're going to have to use both tyres, obviously, once.
Yeah.
And it isn't going to change your sort of how many stops you have to make. I like this strategy because he's seen those running on mediums, especially given that Dustly has shown great pace this season and has been sort of in the title fights at times. If he can sort of clear, if he feels like he's going to get stuck in traffic at the start here, he can use these soft tyres to clear the slightly slower cars around him, get a bit more of a pace advantage in the first stint, perhaps crack his way into that top 10 as we see a crash on the formation lap. If he can clear some of those medium drivers, then...
as Dustly has been disqualified.
Along with GTX. If he can use those soft tyres at the start of this race, then I think he might have a chance to cut his way perhaps into the top 10 if there's any incidents. Look out for some incidents down at turn 1. That's where it could get a little bit spicy with the layout of this circuit. Of course, a very tight turn 1. From my limited experience of this circuit, I expect that if we're going to see something happen into turn 1, it's quite possible it'll happen further down the order. And I mean, with sort of how early some cars, it's a bit like Silverstone in the sense that the guys up front know what they can do into turn 1. They've had a little less of a run there, so we can take it a bit quicker than those behind. But those guys in the back row who perhaps haven't fought it through will go in there at full speed, forgetting that there's perhaps 2-3 wide and there's cars all around them. So that's where we could see some potential incidents on the first lap. Hopefully there'll be none of the sort, but let's wait and see how these drivers do. All the cars now on the grid, and we now await the lights to pop up at the top of the screen. The lights are now on. All 5 lights are on here. And we are racing in Portugal. can Tusum get a good start from pole position? It looks like a bit of a wiggle there from Carl and Rob off the lanes. They're 4 wide already, dropping down into turn 1. And that is Carl and Rob who takes the lead into turn 1. That is Lars up into second, but wheel to wheel going through turns 2 and 3. Tusum on the inside now of Lars as they make their way into turn 3. Lars looks like he's made the outside work. There is now Tusum coming under attack from Mentos on the inside of him, going through turn 4. Down the straight, back down towards turn 5 now. It is Carl and Rob out front ahead of Lars. And that is Tusum dropping down the field after getting what didn't look like a bad launch, but the field really has swallowed him up here. Mentos trying to take that final podium place away from Tusum on this first lap of the race. That is Tusum defending for his life here from Mentos. It looks like the whole field has got through cleanly. As they now make their way up and down the roller coaster-like section of the racetrack. Got battles throughout the pack here. And look at this, we've got Black Yoshi and Bandini racing. Bandini looks to have held on to that position here, crucial for his championship chances to try and get a few more places on that bond. But that's Black Yoshi trying to fight back and go all the way around the outside here. Diving in to the corner, who's going to make this move work? Bandini holding off on the inside. That can allow Carlsbury to get into the mix, and he's going to send it to the outside of the penultimate corner, of course. With the braking that late, he wasn't going to make the corner there. As they make their way now towards the final corner of the track, and looks like they're all sort of slotting into a single file line here as Carl and Rob leads the first lap of the race ahead of Lars and Tusum dropping from pole position.
Yeah, what a fantastic lap and first corner, as we had 4 drivers go in at the front of the pack. Yep, so Carl and Rob had taken the race lead with Lars in P2, with Tusum dropping down to P3. We are early on in the race. Do get into the stream chat. Who will be your top 3 for this race? Can Carl and Rob convert now that race lead into a race win? Who knows, but we will find out in around about 31 laps left. So do get into the chat. Who do you think will be your top 3, as it is Carl and Rob who is in the race lead, with Lars, who has proven to be not just a midfielder, well, a midfield driver in this. He wants to show you what he can do and maybe show the admin team that they got him in the wrong tier, but he has got a point to prove after a fantastic race in China. Also Pachuca also up to P5, as he has got also a point to prove after his fantastic pole position to race win last week, but he has got Powdy right behind him for P5.
Look at this train of cars making their way down the straight now. These guys really are nose to tail as they make their way down towards turn 1. The thing is, they're all sort of as close to each other as the cars around them are, which means that no one's really making any overtakes, which means that the field's almost sort of staying in a status quo sort of situation at the moment, where they've all got a bit of a slipstream up ahead of them, but aren't able to make the moves work. So at the moment, everyone seeming to stay in a pretty still position, but at the moment they're very close. The predicted slipstream train appears to be playing out here, as the field's pretty much in one long train of what hopefully will turn into some great racing and not just stay as one long train. But so far it's very close racing here in Portugal.
Yeah, as I'm just reading the stream comments, a few people just asking what's happened to Vivabet. I believe he may have had a spin, as he's 31.5 seconds behind. Yeah, so not a great race from the reserve that is in, I believe, I'm trying to work out who's in Ferrari now. Oh, it would be Nicholas, or Nicolas. So, Karen Robb comes to cross the line for lap 4 of 33 laps of the Portimao circuit in Portugal, as we have... Oh, as Lars... No, Lars and Tusum haven't swapped positions. My eyes aren't deceiving me. And that is Tusum in...
Oh, around, that's Jamie. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Jamie has spun down at turn 1, exit down on the medium tyres. And he has dropped down the order. He started in 11th. He's dropped down now to 16th place. And that is quite an awful first few laps. So he's got some battling further up the order. Lots of wheel-to-wheel action. Oh, big moment there. Looks like Bandini and Powdy are battling. That stacked these guys up. That's Black Yoshi on the back of Powdy now as they make their way up the hill. This group of cars, it shows as soon as one person makes a move or makes a mistake, it's sort of, because they're already so close, all it takes is that small little moment for someone and they're just all absolutely on each other, and that's when we're going to see the crazy racing start. as Black Yoshi on the back of Powdy, looking to make the move. He's going to go up the inside here, and I think trying to follow, making a similar move behind may have been Carlsbury there. And that is Black Yoshi up into 7th position ahead of Powdy, and Carlsbury really like sending it on the brakes into that penultimate corner, making his way towards the final one. I believe I might be having some internet issues, which isn't ideal. Apologies to anyone as the stream is lagging of any kind. My internet is usually fine until this week, when it decided not to be.
Yeah, I've had a few issues with it in Austria, as it looks like Powdy is going to go down the inside, but nope, the door gets closed on him with hyped Scholes. So one Haas doing a master plan for the Haas team, and as a sector 1 yellow flags, that is Jamie, I believe, but we have got a battle here between Carlsbury and Powdy for P9, I believe it is, but they are going to go side by side, as Powdy shuts that door firmly closed.
Yeah, Powdy defending hard there from Carlsbury. Powdy's lost quite a few positions in the last few laps. He's perhaps having some struggles with his grip, so maybe not quite enjoying the long run here at Portimao, which is a bit of a surprise because he's shown some good form in recent races. But at the moment he's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, as Vavabet and Carlsbury both are the first 2 drivers to pick up the corner cutting penalty of 3 seconds. I wonder if we'll see a lot of them today. With this track, the tow and the slipstream is so powerful because of the DRS trains. GTX gets a 3-second time penalty as well, and it's just showing that the soft compound tyre may be just the one that has switched on the quickest, as it looks like Carlsbury is going to get the tow and the DRS down into turn 1, but does not get that move. He is getting very impatient behind the Aston Martin driver.
Yeah, he's all over the back of Powdy. Powdy he doesn't look comfortable at all at the moment, which is a bit of a surprise to see Carlsbury at the moment really putting the pressure on. You can see that this group of cars appear to have dropped the Pied Piper and his group of cars. F1R San, I am very sorry on that one. They're doing really well at the moment. They're the top driver on the medium tyres and still in DRS of some of the soft guys. You can see the Pied Piper's really sort of dropped off of these guys on the soft compound tyres. Big moment there. Dustley's around. Dustley's spinning, coming up back up the hill. Appears to have spun coming down the hill, and finds himself down with Jamie now down in 16th position. And that is a big moment for Dustley. Let's hope he hasn't sustained any damage and can continue in this race. He'll probably have quite hot tyres after that moment. But yeah, that's not an ideal moment for Dustley, who was at one point in the season a championship contender, but it appears to be all going wrong with him at the moment.
Yeah, as I have to interrupt you, as Black Yoshi has literally just steamrolled past Bandini, and he is now up to P6. Just a quick mention on Dustley, he is not on his wheel tonight. He couldn't get his pedals fixed in time, and he is using a controller, so maybe he's just not adjusted to it at the moment. But that is Black Yoshi up to P6 against the championship leader. Yeah,
the championship leader of Bandini. He's sort of struggling at the moment by the looks of things. Not quite in his usual form here. As I said before the race, he's usually either winning it or, well, not finishing it, quite frankly. At the moment, he is neither winning nor currently in a position to not finish. Hopefully I haven't jinxed him there. But at the moment, down in 7th position. Not doing too badly, obviously in the points still, but not where he would have wanted to be, given his championship situation. Common Rob, his main rival at the moment. Common Rob leading the race. It's not looking too good for him at the moment. As that's up, the inside goes hyped. Could there be some damage or some sort of tyre temperature issue for Bandini? He appears to be having a very similar issue to that of Powdy. Both of those two drivers appear to be dropping time quite a lot in the long run here. And in a similar way, they seem to they get past once and then are dropping down the order quite quickly. As into the pits comes Pachuca. He will be the first of the lead group to pit for tyres. I wonder what will go to. Perhaps is it too early to go for mediums? Are they perhaps going to go for a two-stop? He is going to pit to the medium compound tyres. I thought this strategy would be a bit more than just 8 laps on the softs, but clearly I'm wrong on this one. I mean, that would mean what, 25 laps on the mediums? Is that possible? It seems a bit of a stretch, but these guys they know a lot more than I do in this scenario. But that is Pachuca, the first of the top guys to pit. Dustley appears to be following him in there. But up at the front, it is Kyle and Rob still controlling this race, ahead of Lars and Tusum. Tusum not really sort of charging his way back to the lead, especially after the qualifying pace that we saw. I'd expect him to come through the order a little bit quicker on this one. But at the moment he's not doing badly. He's still in a solid podium position, not looking like that's under threat at the moment. If anything, he's pressuring Lars with that P2. I think the second that Lars drops out of that DRS of Carl and Rob, that's when Tusum can strike on him and get that position. Then I think Tusum can hunt down the lead.
Yeah, just a quick mention about Bandini, as a few people are asking in the chat. I think he might have some floor damage because he is struggling to recharge that ERS. I've not seen the whole lap his red light flash up, so I just wonder if he's got some ERS issue and some floor or maybe side pod damage, because this is not the Bandini we are used to. We are used to seeing him at the front, and he is really struggling on them soft compound tyre.
Whilst talking just then, Tusum has made the move up into second place. Now he's going to try and hunt down Kyle and Rob for the race lead. He's got past Lars up into second. He's doing well. I think he had to sort of not only sort of catch up to Lars, but he had to also basically didn't have the help of the DRS because both of them had it, so there was no sort of advantage there. If anything, there was a disadvantage because there was less drag coming off the car in front. So Tusum making his way up the order. Now we'll really see, can Tusum take the fight to Kyle and Rob, or does Kyle and Rob have the race pace here to stay in the lead? I think we could get to the stage now where it'll be one of two scenarios, or one of three scenarios. We'll either see Tusum charge up to the back of Kyle and Rob, take the lead and charge off into the distance. Tusum will take the position, or Tusum will take the position, and they'll just continue to, so neither of them will be able to break the DRS.
1 yellow flags. I have to interrupt you there. That is Dustley on the hard compound tyre. Yeah, the game did situate a one stop of soft to hard, but look at this. It looks like Colsby's going to go round the outside of Bandini, gets pushed off the track, but he's still going to go for it as pens are being given to the drivers, and Bandini is really struggling with that understeer as Colsby is going to come back at him with the DRS. We will stick on board with this as Colsby, little bit of wheel bang, and it looks like Bandini gets shoved nearly off the track, but Colsby moves himself up to P7, and that now could be also side pod damage included with that floor damage as well. It is not a great race for that Mercedes driver of Bandini.
Oh, and around goes Carlsbury. Carlsbury is spun immediately after making that position. That's the corner where we've seen lots of drivers struggle for traction. It's a corner where the change in elevation really does loosen the rear end on corner exit. And Carlsbury, and he spins around again, wiping out the Visit Portugal advertisement. They won't be happy with that one. But Carlsbury spins again there, and that is just showing exactly what happens when you have old tyres in a corner where it is very tricky to get on the power. And he now finds himself behind a car that is already pitted in this race, so going from the high of overtaking a championship contender to the low of spinning twice and finding himself a pit stop behind the top guys. Could have a move here by Mentos, getting past Lars, and he's done it easily. DRS past Lars into turn 1. Meanwhile, up at the front, they are very close here. Tusum on the back of Kyle and Rob. If there's a chance that the Tusum will just sort of sit behind, we'll have a look. We'll run and ball with Tusum for a while here. Tusum may well just sit behind Kyle and Rob, use the DRS to sort of save some tyres, save some fuel, save some ERS. Then maybe we'll see sort of a bit of a quieter race, which of course isn't what we want to see. So Tusum, if you're listening, we'd appreciate it if you made this one a bit more exciting and had a nice battle with Kyle and Rob. But I think it's fair to say Tusum has the pace advantage at the moment. The question is, does he want to go for the move, try and take the lead now, try and pull away if he thinks he is good enough, risking that if he then gets into the lead, he'll then be pulling Kyle and Rob along, because Kyle and Rob will then be the car with the DRS, and maybe sort of the quicker car will switch between the two of them, in which that could turn into a nice sort of flip-flop battle. But it all comes down to what Tusum decides to do. He could decide to push hard and try and take the lead away, which it looks like he may well do, but he could also try and conserve behind Kyle and Rob. It looks like he's pushing at the moment. He's using all his ERS as they make their way down towards turn 1. This could be a pretty easy move here for Tusum, using all the power in that Mercedes engine, sending it into turn 1. Kyle and Rob, can he do anything to defend? Doesn't look like it there. Kyle and Rob drops into second position. Yellow flags down as Kyle and Rob's teammate GTX. He was the winner of round 1 of the season, down in 16th position, not having a good day, is the Alfa Romeo driver. Carl and Rob, they're getting very close now, back up at the battle for the lead. A bit of a slide from Tunetank up front now. Tunetank in the lead for the first time since he was sitting on the grid. Now let's see, can he use the pace that he showed in qualifying? Does he still have the pace that he used in qualifying? Or was that more of a one-lap wonder sort of special? Could Carl and Rob have the pace over Tunetank? At the moment, Carl and Rob is staying with Tunetank quite nicely. The question now is, does Carl and Rob use this opportunity to sit behind, say, VRS? Tunetank certainly didn't. So will Carl and Rob do the same and just go all guns blazing, try and take the lead back, make it a nice ding-dong battle? Or will Carl and Rob be a bit more careful, a bit more cautious, think about the championship, stay behind for a few laps, maybe until the pit window, and just try and keep himself in the fight rather than risking it all early on in this Grand Prix? He is very close to the back of Tunetank here as they look like they might be pitting. No, they're not. Tunetank fakes to the pit lane, but this could be an easy move here for Carl and Rob. Perhaps even easier than Tunesank's move the lap before. They're going to go wheel to wheel down towards turn 1. Carl and Rob slices in front of the Mercedes, and back into the lead goes the Alfa Romeo of Carl and Rob, who takes the lead back away from Tunetank.
Yeah, sector 1 yellow flags. That is a car right in front of him. That's Lars, I believe.
Dustly.
No, it's Dustly. Apologies there, as the leaderboard is changing quite rapidly. But yeah, I think both drivers did fully sign, sealed, and deliver that one as they sent both of them into turn 1. I think it's going to be with the pit stop with these two in front. It's going to be the situation of who blinks first. Who is going to make that vital one-stop strategy work of the soft, as Vaverbek gets another penalty and he has retired in the pit lane. So that is our first retirement, and that is the Ferrari reserve of Vaverbek, who was replacing Nicolas for this evening. Quite a lot of drivers are on the hard compound tyres now. We've got 4 of them, which is Carlsberg, GTX and Dusty. Powdy drops all the way down to P13, and Lars has dropped down to P11 after their pit stops, as that sector 1 yellow flag. As Tunetank is now in the pits, so he's going to try and go for that undercut.
Looks like Carl and Rob might have faked going to the pits, which I don't know whether that led to Tunesank's decision or whether he was already planning to pit. Either way, Tunesank is in the pits now, putting on the medium tyres. That will be an easy one stop there for the Mercedes driver that started on pole position in this race. Mentos also into the pits there, another driver who's been running pretty well in this race so far. Not battling for the lead as of yet, but he's been up front, and as you can see there as they leave the pits, because they've been quite close so far in this race. Got a battle between, I believe, Black Yoshi and Lars. They met their way into turn 1. They're going to come out very close behind Mentos. Actually, Lars is going to get past Mentos. Could Black Yoshi follow him through? Mentos almost scared off the road there. Mentos is going to try and keep his nose in here as they go up the hill. Mentos on cold tyres, Pat smartly gives that position up. Meanwhile, Patuka on the undercut has managed to get himself into what would be a net second place here, but he's battling with Tunesank. Tunesank takes that position back and into back ahead of Patuka. In that, both of those two drivers have pitted in this race. Patuka pitted quite early, so I'm guessing that was probably a switch to a two-stop strategy, although I've never really seen that strategy used around this circuit before, so I really wouldn't know what the decision made there by Patuka was to pit that early. I imagine we see Carl and Rob in on this lap, and we do indeed see Carl and Rob in on this lap, and that is Carlsberg out on the racetrack. It was crashed. Carlsberg is crashed. Could that bring out a safety car, in which case that would be to the delight of Carl and Rob? It doesn't look like it's going to. But let's see, where will Carl and Rob come out?
Yeah, as Bandini is now the race leader on 14 lap. As Dustley has gone as well. So that's a double DNF on lap 15 of 33, as Bandini is the race leader on 14 laps. And that's a safety car. So this is going to help Bandini so much, as he will now able to be pit on to the medium compound tyre. So I did say we would get a safety car. I didn't say what lap, but lap 15. We are now under the safety car.
Now the question is, how big of a gap do you need to pit under safety car and come out ahead? At the moment, it's a 19-second gap for Bandini to his rivals in this race. Of course, that being Carl and Rob and Tunesank. This could be close here. In theory, a 19-second gap at most circuits would easily be enough under a safety car conditions to come out ahead. But Portugal has quite a long pit lane for a couple of reasons. For starters, it is generally quite a long pit lane. and also it's a pit lane at the part of the track where the drivers on the racetrack are going so much quicker. Because not only are you having to spend that time at pit limiter, whilst the drivers are flat out the entire time you are braking into the pit lane, accelerating out the pit lane, even when you're in the pit lane, they're going completely flat out, unlike other circuits. For example, let's go back to it, let's find a random circuit to pick here. Barcelona, that's one where sort of into the final corner you're that much slower going into the final corner, going in the pit lane than you are on the racetrack. Of course you are a little bit, but not a huge difference, whereas here they're entirely flat out whilst you're in the pits. Let's see now where Bandini comes out. Of course, the safety car limiter will be on these drivers, so they won't be able to go that quickly. It's going to be close, but Bandini will not take the lead.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about the Spanish track situation, you could also say the same for the Austrian track in Spielberg. The way the last corner goes into the pits, but I have got some confirmation that Bandini's ERS is now working, as I've now seen that red flashing light, so he has got back up to 100% on the ERS, so that is going to be an absolute saviour to him. And I know he's going to have some floor damage and probably some side pod damage, but that ERS could be crucial to him. Karen Robb is now your race leader with Tusum up to P2 and Lars up to P3. Black Yoshi is in 4th with Mentos in 5th. Hyped Shoals is in 6th with Bandini in 7th. F1R San in P8. Then the other Aston Martin of Powdy in P9. The Pied Piper rounds off the top 10 for one of the McLarens. Then in P11 we've got CPI Daniel. In 12th we've got Jamie. Then in 13th we've got Pachuca. In 14th we've got GTX 23. Your 3 DNFs for the race so far in F9 is Carlsbury, Dustley and Vavabet. So I'm going to come to you for this one, Jackson. Now we have a safety car. Do you think Karen Robb can hold this on, or do you think Tusum has got that pace still behind him to maybe, well, I wouldn't say nick, but snatch that race win off of him on the safety car restart?
I think at the moment those two in that first stint showed very similar pace. I think on raw pace, as in qualifying, I think Tusum has that edge. However, given that there's not a huge difference, with DRS sort of making up that difference between the two of them, I think it could well in the end come down to position with like a lap to go. It could be, depending on where they are in the dying sort of phases of this race, it could well be to sort of almost like an oval race in the sense that it's like who's behind going to the final lap, who can make that move going to the line, because obviously that's not what we're going to see here. But if on that final lap, let's say it's Karen Robb ahead of Tusum, let's say Tusum makes the move into turn 1, but if Tusum has any sort of issue going back up through turns 3 and turns 4, that means that Karen Robb can get the move back down to turn 5, and from then on the lap is pretty much sort of, if Tusum can't stay side by side, then Karen Robb will sort of be able to pull away a little bit with the dirty air through there. The only then question would be, if one of them saves more ERS through the middle sector than the other, then maybe one of them will run out of ERS to the line, in which case, for how long of a run to the line it is then, maybe we could see a position change there. But I think it's not, I hope I'm not jinxing it here, but I don't think it's going to be a case of one of them manages to sort of break the DRS and charge away in the distance. I think it is going to come down to positioning with a few laps left, almost like an Austria race, in the sense that it's all about the DRS, it's all about the slipstream, and it's about when you make the moves, not if you make the moves.
Yeah, as somebody has mentioned in the chat for the penalties, just to give you an update, Mentos has 3 seconds, F1R San has 3 seconds, CPI Daniel has 6 seconds, Jamie has 3, and GTX has 6. So the safety car will be in this lap, and I will hand you over to the fantastic Jackson in that comms box beside me for the safety car restart.
So it is Karen Robb leading the field here, back to green at the Portimao circuit. Tusum is lining up right behind him now. He's going to really back the field up, the safety car making its way through the final. You see the crowd cheering for this restart as they come over the crest of the hill. Karen Robb will lead them. The safety car is back in the pits. It is now up to Karen Robb when he goes now. He's going to want to go at probably the latest point he can. No, he doesn't. He goes now. It is back to green flag racing. Conrad leads the field over the line. And a couple of cars at the back into the pits. Pat's picking up damage on the restart. But immediately Carl and Rob trying to pull away out front. It is Twosome in second. Lars in third. They're all staying pretty single file on this restart here. Let's see if that changes. They make their way through the next couple of corners. Battling the two Aston Martins coming close together here. GTX retires in the pit lane there. And that is around. That's like Jamie getting himself up into the top 10. He's pitted to soft tyres. And he has now made his way into the points as they dive down into the hairpin. That's a big send from, I believe, Hype Scholes. One of the drivers who is in title contention at the moment makes his way up into 5th, or does he? Yes, that's battling back on the inside. It is Mentos back into the 5th position. They go wheel to wheel through this part of the lap. It's a risky part of the lap to go side by side because it can end so badly. But at the moment, it is still clean racing here between these two, and it is great entertainment to watch here as they battle up the hill. And as Mentos, who gets ahead and stays ahead of Hype Scholes. Meanwhile, up ahead of them, Black Yoshi all over the back of Lars here. Maybe he'll be one to watch for on the restart. We're going to have no DRS for the next couple of laps, but it will be re-enabled in a lap or two's time.
Yeah, fantastic restart. The restart of the dreams for Kai and Rob. But look at Black Yoshi on the back of Lars. Is he going to go for the move as they come across the start-finish line? Look at the toe and the slipstream that Black Yoshi gets in that Williams. He is on a charge. He wants a podium, and he's going to get everything right now as he is going to go for the move. He goes, yep, he's going to go down the inside of, it looks like Lars, and Lars gets a bit of understeer, but manages to close the door. No DRS activated at the moment, as it is not going to be activated, as it looks to be a battle behind these two, as Hyped and Mentos are going to go side by side, but Mentos gets the door closed on Hyped for P5.
Lots of battles through the pack at the moment. It's great entertainment to watch at the moment. We could have more moves further down the field, but it's as I said before, it's just such a close field. It is. It's guaranteed to create great racing, and that is F1R San, who has gone for a spin in the tricky turn 8. And he's gone for a second spin, very similar to Carlsbury in that side of things. Meanwhile, they're battling for 5th once again. It's Mentos and Hyped going wheel to wheel. I lost count at this stage in the race. They're still wheel to wheel, diving into the penultimate corner. Who's going to come out of this corner ahead? You almost don't want to be ahead coming out of this corner because you're then not going to get the DRS, but they are all very close here. Hyped comes through the final corner, gets the position. Meanwhile, Jamie's getting very close into this battle as well. All of them are using all the DRS they have available to them. They're going to go back wheel to wheel down the straight. Mentos with the DRS. Or no, he doesn't actually have the DRS. Neither of them do. Of course, because it's not enabled yet until now. And they're wheel to wheel, still racing hard. The Haas car of Jamie's going to get in the fight now. He's going to go up the inside of the Ferrari to barge him off the road. Mentos getting pushed way off the track there. Hype's going to try and take advantage of that move and try and fight back. Now DRS is open, but they all have it. That's the only issue. They're now diving into turn 5. That is Hyped on the inside. Now just trying to look to retake that P6 that he's lost because of his teammate. Now that is Mentos that's been pushed off the road here. As F1 San has pitted and retired from this race. Shame to see there for the Aston Martin driver, and he is I think 6th retirement and a 5th retirement of the day. But it's a race of attrition so far here in Portugal, and it is crazy racing throughout the field.
Yeah, and just to think this is a watermouth race so far. Next week we have the Canadian Grand Prix coming up in PSGL for the PS platforms, but we are in for an exciting 13 laps left in Portimao for the right to be the race winner in Portugal, and maybe could be the only one in this tier who can claim a Portimao race win, as it looks like Bandini is going to go down the inside of Mentos into turn 1 and gets that move done before he's even, but Mentos is going to try it again, and Bandini closes that door as he has now got the full operation of that ERS, but I believe DRS is now going to be activated for Mentos, and Mentos may go for the move again as they come up the hill. Mentos cannot get the move done as they go into the corner there, and that's Bandini back up to P7.
These guys are racing so hard at the moment. They know that there's only 12 laps left in this Grand Prix. It's very close racing throughout at the moment. The only place where there isn't close racing is the place where I predicted there would be, and that is the top 2 positions. Kyle Rob at the moment has managed to stretch just out of DRS of Twosome. Now, Twosome showed great pace in qualifying, but at the moment in this race, not quite able to repeat it. But maybe with the power of DRS, if he can get back into that DRS window, maybe he can try and get back onto the back of Kyle Robb. But I mean, Kyle Robb's used so much less ERS at the moment. Maybe the dirty air's hurting Twosome at the moment, but at the moment, it is very much the race in the control of Kyle Robb. And unless Twosome is saving a bit of tyres, which based on the amount of ERS he's used, I would say he's not conserving anything at the moment, it's very much looking like Kyle Robb's race to lose. Black Joshi, meanwhile, up in the third position. He has got a 3-second time penalty, though. So he currently in third, but will probably lose a couple of positions due to that penalty, unless he can start to pull away. But of course, as we've mentioned earlier, the power of the DRS is just so strong that it is very hard to pull a gap ahead of anyone.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to Jamie and Hype, the two drivers that have not had the best of seasons, well, with Haas. Probably that might be a cursed Haas car, but they are currently running in P5 and P6. Jamie has a penalty.
Oh, he spins! Jamie goes around. Jamie's spun coming out of turn 8.
And that is what we like to call the commentator's curse, and I do apologise for that one. That is a Sector 2 yellow flags, but he is going to get back on the racing. Luckily, his teammate is going to move up into P5. But yeah, it's definitely a different change from last week, as Pachuca was the pole sitter and the race winner. He's now in P12 with a gap of 39.7 seconds. So it's definitely an open field in this tier, as anything can happen. And I think, as you said before, it is the Welshman of Kyle Robb in that Alfa Romeo. It's his to lose.
Yeah, that is very true. You mentioned the differences to last week as we got a battle here between Daniel and Mentos going down into turn 1. As Daniel on the inside makes the move on Mentos. Daniel on the softer compound of tyre, so that's not an unexpected pace difference. But you mentioned the sort of differences from this week to last week in terms of the drivers and where they are. When you look at the track, you can see whilst there are a few similarities between these two circuits. You'll notice that China has quite a lot of slow speed corners, where it is very much always at the big slide for Daniel, but he does keep control of the car. But Mentos going to fight back here on the outside as they make their way through this high speed chain of corners. Now up into turn 8, let's see if they can all keep it straight on exit. Oh, close one there for Daniel, who nearly loses control of his car, but just about holding on to that position at the moment. But China has a lot more slow speed corners, as once again they go wheel to wheel. Mentos on the inside here on the medium tyres is going to sort of show Daniel the door. That could give Powdy an opportunity here to make up a couple of positions. Not looking like he's able to at the moment. These guys are all so close in terms of racing. Daniel all over the back of Mentos. I'm guessing he'll probably make the move now down into turn 1. Of course, Mentos is not going to have DRS. He's too far back from Bandini, who is the car ahead of him. So Daniel looking like he's going to be able to make quite an easy move. With the soft tyres, he's going to have DRS, he's going to have ERS, he's going to have everything he needs. And as I say that, it looks like he's not gaining much at all. Will he have to defend? Yes, he will. He's actually going to lose a position here. And, I mean, that's, I guess, sort of a commentator's curse. I said he had an easy overtake and he's lost a position. Sorry about that one. That's not quite the insights I should be bringing. Sorry about that to everyone, really. But Powdy gets up into 8th position, Daniel down into 9th. But meanwhile, up at the front, Kyle Robb continues to extend that lead. And looking quite happy out front here.
Yeah, and I think Daniel has now committed to... I've just checked how many stops he's made. I think Daniel is committing to the 2-stop. I don't think them softs will last for the remainder of the lap. Well, not the lap, the race, should I say, as he's on 7 laps already on the soft, and he's a little massive understeer for the Alpine driver, as the Pied Piper is getting rather close, and he has dropped 2 positions already within 2 laps. But yeah, I think now 9 laps remaining. Yeah, it's going to be very close, as nobody has really managed to pull a gap to anybody. They're all keeping within the 5-second window. As Powdy, no, not Powdy, Daniel is going to get DRS on Powdy, but he's too far back to even think of a move. And yeah, I think he is committed to the 2-stop, and yeah, he may not even finish in the points for this race, but he will probably keep it hopeful that maybe there is another safety car in store for this race. But 8 laps left to go in F9 for PSGL.
So yeah, it's looking like a dominant drive out front, and it's probably the quietest part we've had of the race so far. We're starting to see, I would say, I wouldn't even say gaps really. There's spaces between the drivers, but at the moment there's a couple of gaps emerging. Sort of got the top 5 broken away as a group, and then you've got basically everyone else in a train, with the exception of Pachuca, who appears to have had some issues in the late stages of this race, and has dropped down the order a tad. Now, I mean, 29 seconds behind the pack. He's very much relying on a late safety car to get himself back in here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with Lars as well. Lars is in the DRS range. I've only just picked that up. He is in the DRS range, but he's got hyped right behind him. So he's going to have to play this very strategic. He's going to get the DRS, but he's not going to get the move done. But he's going to really close up that gap. He might just want to be careful because Black Yoshi does have a penalty and Hyped doesn't have one. So, yeah, Lars is in a really difficult position because does he go for it or does he hold back? But look at Hype Shoals, look at the toe he's got. He's going to go for it. He's going to go down the... Yeah, he's going to go for it. Oh, as he pushes Lars a little bit off the track. And they are going to go for it as Hype gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. But yeah, Lars keeps the position for P4, but Hyped is not going to sit there, I think, and take that. I think he will go for the move as he will recharge that ERS, as Lars only has 29% ERS. Oh, and so does Hype, so this is going to have to be an outright pace battle with DRS included.
The only thing, and I'm looking at that podium positions, that may change things, perhaps change the driver's attitude here.
Oh.
As you...
No.
Okay.
No, I thought Lars was going to go for it, but...
Okay. But as you rightly mentioned, at the moment, Black Yosh with that penalty, as we could see battle here, Hyped is in the slipstream. He's going to have DRS here on the straight, and that's going to be an easy move. Lars not even looking like he's going to try and defend that one. And Hyped up into 4th position. Got 2-lap fresher tyres. Into turn 1 they go, and up into 4th goes Hype Shoals. And now he's going to hunt down Black Yoshi. Now, they could sit behind Black Yoshi and say, well, he has a penalty. What's really the point in overtaking him? I mean, Hype does also have a penalty. There is a point in its own right. With, as you mentioned in qualifying, there is the opportunity here to have quite unfair warnings, where you'll go off track once and get 2 warnings for it, which of course is unfair and would be removed. And these guys don't know where each other picked up the warnings. So if Black Yoshi did have an unfair warning and that penalty is unfair, if he reports that, he can then get that penalty removed, and then these guys would need to overtake him on track to get that podium. Of course, they won't have any idea of that. They won't know whether it's legitimate or not, which is why we may see them make the move just in case anyway, to solidify the position and just be 100% certain of the result they're going to get.
Yeah, just a quick update on the penalty situation as we are on that subject. Black Yoshi and Hyped both have 3 seconds on the board for corner cutting pens. Then Mentos in P7 has a penalty. Daniel has 6. Jamie has 8 penalties and Pachuca has 3. The other drivers have no penalties, but we don't know if they have any warnings. So it could be quite inevitable if they do get any penalties or any further warnings. Obviously, as you mentioned with the track warnings, turn 3 seems to be the issue as you are going through there quite fast. So yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting end to the race.
Yeah, not long left in this Grand Prix now. We're going to battle for 9th. It is Jamie versus Daniel. These two both with quite a lot of penalties. Jamie up the inside after he had that spin slightly earlier on. So he probably has more pace than the position he's currently in would give him credit for. Now up into 9th place, but Daniel's going to try and fight back here. Daniel at one point in this race looked a little bit quicker than he currently did. Of course, on the soft tyres it's helped him out a little bit, but issues here and there have put him down into the 10th place. This sort of pack of 3 cars all dueling it out for that 9th place. One of them at the end of the day is going to be quite disappointed at the end of this Grand Prix, and because there's only 2 positions in the points they're fighting for and there's 3 cars in the battle, so one of these guys is going to walk away an unlucky man without any points. But up at the front there is still one man in control of this race, and that is Carl and Rob. 1.5 second lead.
Yeah, as we are going to go on to lap 29, Hyped is really now going to put the pressure on Black Yoshi. I think he, as you mentioned, is going to try and get that P3. He is roughly around about 4 to 5 tenths as he's going to get DRS again, and they're both on mediums, but Hyped is going to be on a little bit of a fresher tyre, not too much fresher tyre, as Powdy gets a 3-second time penalty, so that's another driver for track limits. But it just seems like Hyped cannot get this move done, and it may just prompt Lars to come back at him in the closing stages of this race. But yeah, I think Hyped might want to get this move done quite quickly.
Yeah, I think it's important that he makes the move sooner rather than later, because Black Yoshi's nearly back in the DRS of Tucson. So of course, if Black Yoshi managed to get back into that DRS, then it's going to be near impossible to overtake him for Hype. So Hype has to sort of make this move now, because I mean she's shown from very strong pace here. So maybe if he can make the move on Black Yoshi, which is easier said than done, because Black Yoshi also looks very quick at the moment, maybe there'd be a chance at getting P2 as well from Tucson, which of course would help himself out in the championship. Scholz, I don't really know how. Maybe he's performed very strongly in the last couple of races that I've missed, but he's been a fairly sort of, as he goes off, and that's another
Black Yoshi
penalty
gets
for Black
another
Yoshi.
3-second time penalty. Yeah, so that has confirmed his fate, I think, for the rest of the race, as he's now going to have to make a 6-second gap, and Hyped is using the ERS that he has left. He's going to use everything. He's going to go late on the brakes. He's going to go for a send and a half, and he is going to get that position. And is he going to make it stick? They're going to go through, as Daniel gets a 3-second time penalty as well, and that is an absolute send. Oh, as Black Yoshi taps the back of that Haas diffuser, and that is an absolute send from the Haas driver of Hyped Scholz.
Oh, for a second I thought that Black Yoshi was about to make a similarly crazy send on Hyped. I think he may have thought about it, but then didn't go for it. I don't think Black Yoshi really has to worry here, because, of course, in terms of position, he's not going to get these. In terms of at the end of the race, he probably is going to get this position because of his penalties. But he's probably got another chance at this overtake now, because he is going to be right behind Hyped going onto the straight. This could be a nice and simple move, but I said that last time about I can't remember who it was now.
It was Daniel, I think.
Daniel, that was it. I said it about Daniel and then lost a position. Not the same issue for Black Yoshi, though. He's going to send it to the inside. Not quite a send for as Hyped did the lap previous. But of course, the send into that corner wouldn't work at all. However, Black Yoshi makes the move and finds himself back into the podium position on track. But Hyped, once again, as a corner he clearly likes to brake into, sends it to the inside. And slightly earlier on the brakes this time, he's made the corner a slightly bit better, but this time doesn't get the position, so maybe sending it in from 3 car lengths back is the better strategy for making the overtake. Don't know if it's necessarily the cleanest way, but it worked for him last lap. In this occasion, though, Black Yoshi does hold on to the position. Perhaps a slightly unnecessary battle for these two, given that they both have penalties, and also that there's the driver behind in the form of Lars who doesn't have a penalty, so maybe if these two work together, they could perhaps pull a bit of a gap to Lars, and perhaps that'd help both of them out. But at the moment, they look pretty intent on continuing this battle between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think the same with the Piper. I think he might just be sitting there because he knows Jamie has at least 8 seconds on penalties, so he could be looking at a P7 and maybe a P8. It depends if he can close that gap. But Hype Scholz is going to get that DRS. He's going to go down into turn 1, and he's going to get that move back done again on Black Yoshi. I think they are trading positions, but it looks to be, as Daniel gets a 3-second timing, as Black Yoshi goes back at him, but gets a wider exit, but gets the move done on Hyped, and Hyped is now back down to P4, but Hyped is going to go for it again. These two are absolutely at it for that final podium places. Black Yoshi has 6 seconds on the clock. Oh, massive understeer from Black Yoshi, and Hyped was unable to capitalise it, and I think Lars might just be licking his lips as he knows a podium may be on the cards.
Yeah, these guys really not holding anything back at the moment. These two clearly enjoying their little scrap at the moment. Hyped all over the back of Black Yoshi, but I mean, when Hyped has got ahead, it's been the other way around. Black Yoshi's been all over the back of Hyped, so these two really demonstrating the fact that DRS is just so important here. And that as soon as you get ahead, you're the one on the back foot once again, unless you've got a big pace advantage. But at the moment, these two are having a nice little ding-dong battle. Let's see who's going to make the move on this occasion as we do prepare for the final lap of the race. Kyle and Rob still out of that DRS zone of Tucson. But here we go. What can Hype do? It looks like it's going to be an easy pass down the straight there, wheel to wheel. Hype uses all the power, all the reduced drag that the DRS brings, and into turn one they go. Hype gets into that third position, but let's see, can Black Yoshi fight back here? They're going to go through as Hype. I think Hype wanted to be behind, I think, going through that DRS zone perhaps. He wasn't able to do it, but now he's got a massive gap going onto this straight. This looks almost for certain that Hype has the position. Unless Black Yoshi can send it, he gets pretty close, but not close enough. Hype gets a little bit of loss of traction on the corner exit there. Not able to get the power down quad as he wanted to, but it's enough to keep hold of that P3. Black Yoshi pushing so hard here. On the back of Hype, he's nearly spinning the car, he's sliding the rear out of turn 8. Now they make their way back up the hill through this roller coaster of track. And he sends it to the inside. That's going to be a risky one. He does get left to space by Hyped. But on this occasion, Hype does fight back. Meanwhile, we have got top 2 battling it out, but they're still battling here for P3. Who is going to come out on top? Hype still wheel to wheel. But up at the front, it is Carl and Rob, who is going to come around the final corner despite being caught up a lot on the final couple of laps of this race. Carl and Rob wins the Portuguese Grand Prix ahead of Twosome. With Hyped, will he be the one that gets third? On track it will be. In the end, after they've crossed the line, it is Lars that gets P3, with Hyped in P4. Let's see what penalties can be removed, perhaps post-race. But at least provisionally, it is Lars taking the final spot on the podium with Hyped in P4, Bandini in P5, Black Yoshi P6, P7 to Mentos, Powdy P8, P9 to the Pied Piper, P10 to Jamie, and Daniel appears to have had some issues late on in this Grand Prix and now finds himself out of the points, along with the McLaren of Pachuca.
Yeah, fantastic race there from Kyle Rob. The Welshman, I'm sure he'll be absolutely delighted after having not a great week in Austria and then not having a great week in China as well after his desync that he had happen. But that is the Portuguese Grand Prix, apologies there, completed. As Hyped, Scholes gets the virtual in-game driver of the day. He did make a whopping 7 position changes, so he gets himself up into P4, I believe that is. So that is PSGL F9 for round 9 of the Portuguese Grand Prix done and completed. Next week we will be off to the I can't remember what the name of it is now, but we will be off to the Canadian Grand Prix, and then it will be a week break. That is due to the real life USA Grand Prix. Then we've got up and coming tracks of the Suzuka in Japan. Then we have another break which is for the Mexican Grand Prix. Then we've got the PSGL Mexican Grand Prix. Then we've got Kota coming up. Then we have another break which is for the esports event. Then we've got Baku, and then the season finale in Brazil. But I will run you down through the race results. Karen Robb is your provisional race winner for this evening for Alfa Romeo. Then you've got Twosome in second, Lars in third, then you've got Hyped in fourth, Bandini takes fifth, Black Yoshi in sixth, Mentos in seventh, Powdy eighth, the Pied Piper in ninth, Jamie in 10th after his penalties, Pachuca in 11th, CPI Daniel in 12th. Then we've got F1R San in 13th. Then we've got GTX in 14th, Carlsbury in 15th, Dustley in 16th, and Veverbet in 17th. So that is round 9 done for PSGL, and I think that was an absolute cracker of a race.
Yeah, that was action up and down. I feel sadly towards the end of the race got a bit quiet for the lead, but I think we that was more than made up for some of the scrapping we had for, especially that final podium position. It's some great action throughout the field. We had that battle early on between the two rivals for the win, and I mean, I think we really we should have seen that we were going to have a pretty crazy race when they went 4 wide into turn 1 on lap 1. That was a sign of things to come. But a truly thrilling race, and only with 1 safety car, no huge major incidents or crash or spins. So a nice and clean race, especially up front, and as commentators, I think we can very much walk away from that race quite happy.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic race in PSGL F9, and the show does continue next week in PSGL, as myself and Jackson will be heading from Portugal to Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix. Until next time, when we go racing in PSGL for F9 for round 10 on the YouTube channel for PSGL. If you did like this stream, then do smash that like button and do hit the subscribe button. Until next time, it's good night from myself as Storm Kings 15, and it's good night from Jackson as well.